She has a name, right? Renee Good. Looks like she was a mom of three and had every right to go see her kids last night. And instead, she's dead. And of course, this is what happened when you have a president who surges his thugs into our communities, masked, unidentified. And I guess you're lucky now if all that happens is you're thrown in the back of a van or you're dragged by your hair through the streets, because now they're just shooting people in the face.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What If News. I am so glad that you are here. What a interesting time to be alive, I suppose you would say. Ladies and gentlemen, what a weird time that we live in. As you can see right now, this is my What If News show page on X. If you want to come follow, come along. It'd be fun. As you can see, that's my last video here. But then we got Final Cut Tile, which just has to do with the Dan Bongino situation. So, I mean, me personally, I like Dan Bongino quite a bit. I believe he's always been a straight shooter, and I believe that under the circumstances of which he had to live under, I would have to say there is a lot of plausible deniability, because the one thing that you can't do is you can't go and tell everybody in the whole entire world what the truth is, especially if it's going to become a national security situation. And I'm particularly talking about Epstein. Believe me, I would love to be able to have the facts come out about that situation. I would absolutely love it for that to be out in the world for everybody to see who was involved, who Epstein worked for, where Epstein's money came from, why so many people gave him all kinds of crap. Was it a blackmail ring? I mean, obviously it was, because you got to go back to where, when the island got raided back then, it was said that there was all these videotapes and this and that, and now they try to hear the other side of it being, oh, it was downloaded or whatever the case might have been. But who was in the videos? Who was being blackmailed? Question's still up in the air.
We watched you lie through your teeth. Look, he said, I've seen the files. He killed himself. I just want you to think about this, okay? Dan Bongino, after talking about this all the time, and you saw him right there in the clip saying, don't let up. Don't let up on the Epstein thing. We got to keep talking about this. None of this makes sense. What you didn't see there is he even went as far as one time on the Tim Pool show, he said, I have it on good authority that Jeffrey Epstein worked for Middle Eastern intelligence. Could be any of those Middle Eastern countries, of course. But so he said all that. Then he goes in there. He says, I've seen the files. He killed himself. That was approximately 2 months before the official position of the administration was that the files don't exist. So he said he's seen the files and he's killed himself. And by the way, as you know, because we followed this whole crazy train, right? The end result of it is that the bill passed. The files are to be released. Great. So now we all get to see it, right? I mean, I understand they just missed a deadline, but of course this administration is that they ran on being the most transparent administration in history, right? So we're going to get all that information. So this will be great. So let's see what Dan Bongino saw. I mean, Dan Bongino, by the way, you're coming back to podcasting now. The files have been declassified. I'm not a lawyer, but pretty sure you can tell us now. It's not classified information anymore. You can tell us exactly what you saw, exactly how you were able to look the American people in the eye and guarantee and promise that he killed himself. And you know that for a fact. I mean, you must have seen some really strong evidence in order to know that for a fact. What we've seen so far is a fake AI image of Epstein attempting to kill himself in some way in his cell, but it was clearly determined that that wasn't a real video. So what is it that you saw, Dan? I mean, look, dude, if you want to come back into this world, in this world here, as you knew before you went into government, in this world, the currency is honesty. The currency is the truth. So tell us, man. You went into government, looked us all in the eye, and made up a big fat fucking lie that you don't know. And you know it. You know you did that. So now you think you're going to be the one to come back into this, the podcasting game, and you're going to be policing this space, the black pillars? Like, okay. We watch.
I gotta admit, I agree some of that. When you watch Dan Bongino and Cash Patel doing interviews, it seemed really uncomfortable, not between the two of them, but because they couldn't speak, they couldn't talk, they couldn't say what they were thinking or wanted to say. And anybody that used to watch Dan Bongino before he became the deputy director of FBI knows that Dan Bongino was a very severe straight shooter when it comes to saying what was going on. I mean, he wrote many books, and the books, not many, like 2 or 3, whatever. And the books all were data set, fact set kind of deals. I mean, you read it and you learn all kinds of stuff. I mean, I remember several times when Dan Bongino was talking about Epstein, that Dan Bongino had this guy that, he was talking to that wanted to say what he knew about Bill Clinton and Epstein and so forth and so on. So, I mean, my opinion, I think Dan Bongino is going to really come back to this forum and really bring it. I really hope he does, and I hope that he tells the real deal Holyfield truth, which I believe he will. That's my own opinion. Let's move on to the next deal. Chuck Schumer. I can't actually believe that I'm going to say this, but I'm going to agree with what this here post says. Let's be clear. Hamas is a terrorist organization committed to the destruction of Jews while imposing its brutal rule on Palestinians. Chanting support for Hamas is anti-Semitic and unacceptable. This hate must have no place in New York City, in the U.S., and around the world, and must be condemned loudly. Excuse me. Chuck Schumer, that is probably one of the smartest things that you've said in quite some time, which is legitimately something that should be really seriously talked about, because the protests for Palestine and all the other protests that are going on in the country, it's not doing anything besides hurting the American people. I mean, the people that are protesting, one, there's no doubt in my mind that they're paid for 100%, whether it's NGO, Soros money, whatever. That situation does not organically happen. Protests do, but those types of protests and occupying and so forth and so on, and signs throughout the country that, lo and behold, there's signs all over the country in these protests that are exactly the same. How in the world does that happen without being funded by somewhere, somehow, someone? Plain and simple. Eric Swalwell, what a tool, man. Fang Fang, don't never forget he was sleeping with a Chinese spy, whatever. Same deal. Let's hear what this idiot has to say.
Hey, Congressman,
What's going on, man?
what the fuck is up with ICE murdering a woman in Minneapolis?
She has a name, right? Renee Good. Looks like she was a mom of 3 and had every right to go see her kids last night. And instead she's dead. And of course, this is what happened when you have a president who surges his thugs into our communities, masked, unidentified, And I guess you're lucky now if all that happens is you're thrown in the back of a van or you're dragged by your hair through the streets, because now they're just shooting people in the face and bodies are piling up. And we have to do something about it. We're not helpless. None of us are helpless. We have to strip these guys of their immunity that makes them feel like they're invincible. We have to ban masks and require them to show their faces. And we have to make sure they're prosecuted locally. Otherwise, they're going to just roam around terrorizing people, terrorizing women, terrorizing moms. And no one with a mom or a wife or a daughter should have to think about that. And no woman should have to go through that. So, yes, to ICE, my message is stay the fuck out of California. I think that's the message that every leader has to deliver across the country, because we're better than them. We're going to get through this, and there's going to be good on the other side. But right now, we need leadership, and we need to go on offense.
Time out. So now they can figure out what a woman is. Now they support women. What is up is down, and what is down is up, right? What stupid shit, man. You know, I'm not going to edit any of this at all. You know, the profanity. And here's something else. Organically, when you're walking through the halls of wherever it was that he was walking through, and then all of a sudden somebody asks him a question, and then he turns, and lo and behold, he has a microphone on. So, I mean, come on. Organically, that looks staged as shit, right? Oh, yeah. Let's go with that. That sounds correct.
If I continually see you following us, interfering with us, honking your horn, blocking our cars, you have a very high probability of making a really bad decision and being arrested today, okay?
I think I'm making exactly
I'm not.
the right decision.
Oh, then why are you giving her a warning? I'm giving her a warning to not interfere with what we're doing, to not make a bad decision today and ruin your life.
Well, bad
Okay,
decisions.
thank you.
That's funny coming from you.
Okay, alrighty. Thank you. Have a good day.
I hope you have a terrible day.
Okay, thank you. Hold on. Watch out, it's slippery. Watch out. Yeah, there's a lot of ice around here. Just so you know, if we continue to have you follow us, okay, have fun. Don't make a bad decision today. It's not illegal to follow you. What is illegal is stopping people unconstitutionally. Don't interfere. If you
This shit is ridiculous. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you right now, if I wasn't given up for adoption, the problem is when I watch these people, I look at the fact of the way my life could have turned out if I was never given up for adoption and raised the correct way. Because these people, I mean, it's unfreaking believable to see such disrespect. ICE, federal law enforcement, DHS, all these people are here trying to clean up our cities that were overran and criminalized in theory because of all the criminals that are literally located inside these things. It's like I'm watching Back to the Future when Biff became president. It's the same shit. Literally. You can probably really coincide both of that. Biff, president. Back to the Future. And then this bullshit, because it's like Biden and Obama were the whole Biff Back to the Future presidency thing. I mean, this right here is unacceptable, 100% unacceptable. I mean, if something bad happened to that lady, right, and she needed the cops, they would be there to help her. But what she's doing is obstructing the situation, which is against the law, which is how people get in trouble. But yet again, you can't fix stupid. Oh man. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson urges constituents to sign up for ICE mobilization alerts to get alerted when ICE is spotted in the area so they can help illegals hide and go protest and harass the agents. When is this shit going to become illegal? I don't know. It probably is. Maybe, I don't know, the DOJ is actually really paying attention to what all these mayors, police chiefs, governors, and every other possible local state government people are saying. Maybe they're taking records. I would sure hope so. Without people being held accountable, this stuff is going to continue. The only way this is going to end is when people that are in positions of power are finally held accountable for all this BS. And then this guy, Jan 6 cop Michael Fan 1, says to shoot ICE agents. It's time for the American people to recognize and utilize their Second Amendment rights to protect themselves from what has clearly become an unacceptable and lawless agency that's killing Americans. I'm so confused. Here again, it's just like all of a sudden they know what women are, and now all of a sudden they're talking about the Second Amendment is there to protect you, but before it was the Second Amendment is bad. We need to take all the guns. Gun regulations, right? That's what it's always about. And now all of a sudden they want to talk and say, oh, we need to start shooting ICE people. What the F is wrong with you dumb sons of bitches, man? I'm sorry, but this stuff is just pissing me off like you cannot freaking believe. CNN, you're calling ICE terrorists and goons and threatening them to stop fucking... Yeah, effing with us. Sorry, my bad. You can incite violence against agents and put them in harm's way. What do you say to that? Well, let's hear what 25 seconds of smartness sounds like. That's not real.
And just real quickly, there are folks that are going to hear you say things like state-sponsored terrorism. You put out as a statement, literally, stop fucking with us, was your words. These are goons. And they'll say that is raising the temperature and actually puts some of this law enforcement officers in greater danger. What do you say to that?
I said what I said.
Okay. And just real quickly.
Well, I guess that sums it up. She said what she said, and lo and behold, CNN says it live on air. Under the premise of, this is what you said. Ladies and gentlemen, this stuff has got to stop.